Hello and welcome to this week's live event. My name is Ailsa Kepi, and I'll be talking today about finding our way through perseverance to triumph after trauma. And I'm happy to talk with you today because this was a big piece for me in finding a way through what I was going through to a strength that I didn't know I had until sometimes you look back and you go, wow, where did I find the strength? And how did I get through that into a place of fulfillment, into a place of feeling alive again? And I wanted to particularly touch on this because for trauma victims, if you will, we often get really stuck in a way of not being able to get out of this loop of, hopelessness, despair, lack of initiative to do anything at all because we've just got this fixation with the fact that every time I, go outside or go to meet somebody new, it turns into the kind of thing where, someone's mean to me and then this happens and then that happens. And we have this whole story in our head and in our body that leads us to think that we will never be able to have a different experience. And of course, this leads to, hopeless feeling and a despair in our body because we really want to triumph. Life and humankind have gone through so much adversity over the millennia that we've been on the planet, and we want to survive. We don't want to get dragged down into that hopelessness that there's nothing different out there for us. I just want to read a little bit. I'm kind of using some of Peter Levine's work today with memory and trauma particularly, but this instinct to persevere and heal in the aftermath of overwhelming loss or trauma or events is something that is innately human. And I suspect that we have this will to persevere and triumph over all adversity and challenges, and that this is what we want to touch in on when we're trying to heal. And this is what, a good coach or a good therapist or, a good friend even will help us to touch in on and help to get us in relationship with in order to really heal from this type of overwhelming trauma and possibly abuse and ways that we've been beaten down. So finding this innate sense of triumph in yourself is really what we need to grab onto in order to make it through. So this is the transformation, really. And it's been out there for many years. Ernest Hemingway, the world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong in the broken places. That's a beautiful saying. Eleanor Roosevelt as well. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. I think many of you will recognize that wonderful saying of Eleanor Roosevelt's that really inspires us when we're getting down. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, assuming that we have somewhere in us that innate strength, how do we find our way back to that after having been, emotionally abused, physically, sexually, financially, perhaps beaten down our entire lives? And, we wonder whether it's even possible to, can we even find ourselves in that, underneath all of that? And that's what I would say a resounding yes, that it is possible. It sometimes isn't easy, but it is possible. And especially if we can really touch in on finding this spot. So often I'm gonna talk a little bit about how trauma affects our body and our memories of things. So what I find when I work with clients quite often is the fact that I ask them sort of to do a timeline and we look at some of, their history. And what happens when we are traumatized is that we often remember particular things that fit into our version of reality of what happened. So if we are in a place of being completely traumatized, overwhelmed, hopeless, despairing, depression, we tend to remember the things in the past that support why we are where we are. And so, your timeline or your history might end up looking very bleak and dismal, and you're like, well, I never had this, and I always, so and so always abused me. I always had bad relationships. I always, I never felt happy. All of these types of things. These memories are related to where we are actually now in the present moment. And, what I find after working with people, through my programs especially, is that as we start to find places in our body and connect with more joyful sensations in the present moment, the memories start changing, or we have different memories of some good times in our past. They may be few and far between, but they are there. And we can't force ourselves to find that. But it's really interesting to notice over and over again with my clients that the way that we remember our past is really predicated on what we're feeling now, right now in the moment. And if you're feeling depressed and despairing and hopeless, then you tend to remember all the things that go along with that. So we get stuck in this chronic contraction, that it's fear-based, or, we've kind of contracted in because of what we've been through. And we get this feedback loop that goes around. So whatever gets activated, if we go out and somebody looks at us in a weird way, we get activated, it sets up that loop of, okay, this is going to, someone else is going to take advantage of me, or they don't like me, or however that looks. It reinforces our fearful state, our state that, we need to protect ourselves from other people or whatever. And so we then go, okay, we're in the right to feel this way because this is what's showing up. And we go around and around that loop. And so our experience is always the same. And this is something that when I first talk to women, and I offer this free breakthrough call to all of you, but when we first talk, usually we're looking for these patterns of where are we stuck, like having the same experience. Like I go out, I always have work colleagues that take advantage of me. I always, don't feel heard. People don't listen to me. I always try my best, but nobody ever appreciates me. Whatever the always is, or, I never get. These are the patterns that we're kind of stuck in. And our current physical and physiological and emotional response unconsciously guides the type of memories and associations that we will recall. And so, present when we get triggered, or we're in a state of fear presently, we do remember it evokes those fear-based memories, which reinforces our current state of fear, which brings back more fear-based memories, which reinforces our current state of fear. And so we go round and round and we're stuck. And this is what we call, a trauma loop, or, these kinds of mental mind, like the squirrels going around in your brain. And, this can be a really big problem, if we get stuck in these things a lot. So what we want to look at is how do we actually move forward, to a different state of being. And so from being stuck in this state of things will never change, we've kind of closed off. We don't want to feel the things anymore. We don't want to feel the fear or the isolation or the abandonment. So we kind of have created an enemy with our body. We now don't want to feel things. And so then that kind of leads to a frozenness in our body. And so the way that I work with people that's different than, many talk therapies is that we're reconnecting with our body. We're reconnecting with those feelings. And we don't have to do it in an overwhelming way that feels re-traumatizing. But we can do this in a gentle, slow, aware way of, okay, we're going to touch in on those feelings. What are you actually noticing in the moment? How can we, finish some of those processes? So how can we be aware of what that was actually bringing up for us? So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I was working with someone recently, and we've done some work, and we're getting to the kind of anger. That we all have anger pretty much. If we've been abused, at some point there's anger. And so I asked her to just make a fist like this, and just if you want to, just try it. Try making a fist. Just hold your fist like this up, and then relax, shake it out. Notice what happened in your body when you did that. You may have noticed a slight, fear, a slight contraction, a slight, oh my God, I can't get angry, like something bad will happen type of feeling. So if you notice that, or if you notice something else, whatever you noticed was right for you. But if you notice that, just try again, just making that fist. Notice what you notice about what happens in your body. I notice a tension through here, and then relax. And just really very slowly and gently kind of touch in on that. So we're not going to say, okay, go rage on your mattress or something, because, perhaps that's too much for many of us to, kind of work with such a big feeling, but just a small feeling. So if you notice, clench your teeth for a minute and then relax, like just noticing, wow, what does that do? What does that bring up for me? That memory of like frustration that I couldn't fight back because I was afraid of my ex, or that being told what to do and always being criticized by my parent. Whatever that brings up, we can then kind of integrate that and start making connections again in a different way that feels empowering. And once we've kind of connected with that feeling, we can actually move to a touching in on the feelings and going, okay, I can have my anger and I can clench my fist and I can relax, and I'm in control of that. I can make that, I can use my anger to get my energy up, and it doesn't have to take me over. It doesn't have to, put me into a huge rage. I can just feel my anger, and that's okay. And I can relax it and it goes away, and I can feel it and I can relax and I can work with that. And this is kind of some of the ways that we work to build relationship with our own body again, with the wisdom that's in here, these memories that are coming up, and how can we finish that. We may, if I'm working with someone, work through the movements that actually we would like to make slowly on our own, so we're not hurting anyone else, but we're able to move through that. If it's a fear, if you take your shoulders and squeeze them up to your ears, most of us start feeling a little anxious just being in this body posture. And then you can take your shoulders and shake out. You take a deeper breath, you feel better. As you begin to realize, I can control how I'm feeling in my body. I can be aware of what I'm feeling in my body. And I have hope that I can continue to work with that type of awareness in order to have choice around what I want to feel and how I want to feel, and how to get myself out of these loops of, oh my God, something's bad is going to happen, just like it did before. It's really quite amazing how quick our brain will go into those old patterns. So this type of work of slowing down, really feeling our body, is a big part of the somatic work that I do with clients. And so if you're interested in that, please do book a breakthrough call with me. I'm more than happy to spend some time talking to you about your particular situation, how we might work with that. And, we can really transform these old procedural memories that have kind of confined us to an immobile, kind of helpless state. We can actually arouse some energy, and we can do that, in a number of different ways. It doesn't have to be anger, it can be joy, it can be pleasure, lots of ways to arouse our energy that can then lead to a mobilizing and a moving forward in a different way, which, really is the triumph and the mastery of life. Is not that we'll never have trauma, or we'll never be triggered, or we'll never have abuse. These things unfortunately exist in the world, but that we will have a choice about how we relate to our body and how we move forward, how we process and integrate what happens to us, and how we can have choice around how we respond to life. And really, that to me is freedom, and choice is mastery of our life. And at that point, we are not in that loop of hopeless despair anymore. We're in this, I have a way of working to move forward. So hopefully that gives you some idea of some of the work that I do, and the ways that you and your body can create this wonderful relationship that helps you rediscover what it is to be in relationship, and to learn to trust your own body can lead again to how you trust and move forward in the world with other people. We need to have a practice run at relating to ourselves first, I feel. So I'm going to just end it there for today. But hopefully this gives you an idea that there is a possibility for changing this despair, this hopelessness, the fact that nothing good ever happened to you. And we can work to find the little nuggets that we can transform, that are already in your body, that we can work with that and actually move forward. So it's been my pleasure talking to you today. You can find out more about me and my work on my website, pleasureforhealth.com. And you can, if you haven't watched my free webinar training, it's on my website under free webinars. There's also, you can look up ailsakepi.com. You'll get directly to the webinar. Please do take it's about 45-minute webinar. It's full of great information about these step-by-step ways of working through this type of trauma loops that we get into. And again, if you want to go directly to speaking to me, I'm more than happy to take an hour and talk with you. No obligation, just getting clarity and working on, getting some clarity about your situation, how we can make some breakthrough with what's going on for you. Talk about you and your life. You can do that at www.ailsakepi.com/apply, APPLY, and I'm more than happy to take some time to talk to you. So for today, may you have an awareness of where you are that leads you to have more choice in your life, and I look forward to talking to you all next week.